Hello, thank you for joining us for another episode of A.R.E. Inside Connection, where you can get the inside scoop of the happenings at Edgar Cayce's A.R.E. My name is Loretto and I am the marketing coordinator. Joining us today, we have Cindy Griffith. She is a psychic, author, spiritual teacher, and one of A.R.E.'s popular speakers. Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you.
I am so excited for this opportunity to get to talk to you a little bit more and find out about what you do. I've seen you around campus for about 2 years, seen you a couple of your presentations and seen you at psychic fairs, but I've never really had a chance to really talk to you all that much, so I'm very excited.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. To get us started, I would love to know what got you interested in the Cayce material and kind of like how did you find out about Edgar Cayce?
Well, it's interesting. I was attending a 3-year metaphysical teacher training program in Nyack, New York, and with my teacher, Barbara Lynn, and we did a field trip down here back in the 90s.
Oh, cool.
And so a lot of the teachings that she was teaching were a little bit of Edgar Cayce, a little bit of theosophy, a little mix of everything.
Yeah.
And so really a lot of my early training was Cayce. She wouldn't say, this is this person and this is that person, so we never knew what came from whom until I came down here and I wanted to teach a class on metaphysics. And that's when I found out that, when I went to look up my belief here, that was similar to Cayce. That was similar to Cayce. And I realized I think quite a bit of the teachings was from Cayce.
Yeah.
So I've been a member on and off since the early 90s. But when we moved here in 2015, I really liked the energy of the place. I couldn't find anything that felt in opposition to my beliefs. I felt a real nice connection and mix within my beliefs. It was a nice complement. And I got to teach, which I just love. And it started probably about 4 years ago.
I love that. Yeah, because I was here between 2013 and 2015, and I didn't meet you then. It wasn't until I came back in 2018 where I got to meet you and see some of your
we moved in 2015 from New York to Virginia Beach.
And was it mostly because of the A.R.E. or?
We wanted a spiritual community.
Okay.
And so A.R.E. fit in there nicely. There were many other reasons that made our decision, but we felt so welcome here and a few other places that it just seemed a natural fit. We wanted some place where we didn't have to create the community. We didn't have to, that we could just come and enjoy.
Yes.
And so this was perfect.
And one of Cayce's most popular readings talks about how each of us have latent psychic abilities inside of us. Like we all kind of have that intuitive ability. Do you believe in that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Talk about one of the sayings of Cayce's that fit totally into my paradigm, you know. I feel that we all have psychic ability. It is innate within us. It's part of our divine right as being sparks of God, or love bubbles, as I like to think of us, as our souls being love bubbles. But in our essence is that connection, you know, and what I feel is that some people may not have worked on it or may not have acknowledged it or trusted it. And we're going to see trust is really important for your psychic ability. But I think it's like a muscle. I have muscles. Somewhere within this body there are muscles, you know. But if you look at me, you wouldn't say, oh, that woman has muscles, you know. But if I was to spend time at the gym and put effort into it and trust my body enough, you know, and eat well and do all of those things that it takes to get muscles, then I could have them. And I feel the same about psychic ability. You may say, oh, I don't have any psychic ability, and I don't believe that. I believe that if you do the things that are necessary, and again, trust is a big part of it, but do the things necessary, you could have quite a psychic ability bod, you know, if that's what you want.
there's that famous saying, you know, just trust your gut. And I mean, that's really like trusting your intuition, and that's basically, you know.
It's so hard for us though, because
Yes.
how often as children we were told, oh, you don't know that. How could you know that? You know, and we did know that. I think as children we're extra psychic,
Oh,
you
absolutely.
know. Well, you have young ones,
Yeah,
you
I have
know,
two
that
little
you
ones.
can't get away with anything
No.
with them probably.
And they pick it up. Like
Yeah,
they are
they know.
there's so much wisdom.
Yeah.
My little ones are really teaching me to kind of pay attention. Especially my daughter, she is so connected.
Yeah.
And
Well, and we start out that way,
Yeah.
don't we? And thank goodness they have a mom that's not going to say, oh, you don't know that, right? But in my generation anyway, I grew up in the 60s and the 70s, and in my generation it was, if it wasn't scientific, even, you know, and my mother was a spiritual woman, but still there wasn't, you know, follow your gut. Because at
Right.
that point, even my parents were raised where only priests or pastors could talk to God, you know. So there was, I think for many people, a real shutting down, and that it's only as we mature and we recognize that there's more to life than what we can see, touch, or feel, that we start to open up on that. And so I feel that, again, it's something that requires time and effort. Now, some people naturally, they are just intuitive beings and they couldn't shut it down if they wanted, you know. But I think for many of us, it's a process of reopening, and
Yeah.
trusting and allowing.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I
Yeah,
love that
which is
word.
why I think people like in a lot of our workshops here at A.R.E, people like the experiential. And so I always try to put experiential in,
Yes.
because it's one thing to talk about going to heaven and the other to go to heaven, you
Right,
know?
right.
And so there's one thing to talk about a concept, but when you actually do it, you show to yourself that oh, wow. I
Right,
can
and people
do
want to
it.
try it. They, you know,
Yeah.
especially with the teacher, you kind of want to get a little bit of guidance, and you know, if you have questions, or just see if you're
Yeah.
doing it the right way.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, and really there is no wrong way,
Right.
you know, but we want to know we're doing it the
Yes,
right way
yes.
anyway, you know. And it's one of the reasons why, even like we just did a YouTube premiere. And I was on during that, answering people's questions. So even when we are online, there still is the ability, even if the teacher isn't there, you can send a question, you know, and you'll get feedback, you know, from
Yeah.
it. But I really like the online, excuse me, the online format, because a lot of times when you're in a big group and you're working with a partner, it can be a little intimidating. You know, oh, wow, they did really good and I only got the color, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this allows you to be in the comfort of your home and not have that intimidation. I mean, it's wonderful to come in person. There are other advantages.
Right,
But I think that this online format is opening up, not only opening up to people that are shy and wouldn't feel comfortable, but also it's opening up people that maybe not have the luxury to travel to Virginia Beach.
Exactly, and it feels probably more safe.
Yeah.
You know, they're in their own environment, and instead of you know, being with people that they don't know, so they may be able
So
to open up
I think
more.
it's going to open up to a lot of people that may not have felt comfortable to come out and maybe say, oh, I need days off of work because I'm going to
Yeah.
A.R.E, you know, and this allows, and also it's on demand.
Right.
So even if you can't show up at the time and place that the event is scheduled, you can still watch it later.
Yeah, and I mean, what we've seen, and it's wonderful, we have people joining us from all over the world, and you know, people that have been wanting to attend our conferences, but they can't, and now we have the ability for them to be part of it, and it has been really nice to see all the wonderful feedback. And you know, we have people joining us from all over the world that have been Cayce fans for a long time, that they haven't been able to really get the full experience,
Yeah.
but right now they're able to get a little bit more than before, and it has been really nice to see all the feedback. So have you, were you always a psychic? Or
Well,
like,
I think I was a very tuned in child. I think I've always been empathic.
Okay.
which is a different conference we're going to be doing in October.
Yeah.
But I think I've always been empathic, which basically means you pick up on other people's stuff or energy. But I do think I was psychic. My grandfather got his psychic ability through dreams. He would dream, he had prophetic dreams. I don't have prophetic dreams, but I think I was always psychic. My mother just told me, Cindy, you were a strange child. But then I think it was overwhelming for me, and so I pushed it away and shoved it away for many years. And it wasn't until my late 20s that actually I didn't believe in anything, not even myself. You know, I was not in the best space. And I picked up a tarot deck, and I started playing with it because that's what it was to me.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I realized that the information that I'm getting or that's coming out of my mouth is smarter than I am. And so I thought, oh, maybe there is something bigger than me. And my whole spirituality, my whole journey came out of that realization that I got through tarot cards.
Oh, wow, that is really interesting.
Yeah.
I love that.
So not until my late 20s
Yeah,
did I really...
so it took you a while to really to pay attention and to trust
But it doesn't matter if you're 40, 29, 39, 49, 59. It's never too late. 69, 89, you know.
Yeah.
I love some of the people that come, you know, to the conferences are all ages. And it's never too late to open yourself up to that connection that we all, I feel, desire on some level or another, or yearn for.
You're absolutely right. I think it's all inside of us. Many of us don't really know what it is and don't really know how to tap into it. I'm glad that I'm able to kind of be aware. I think, you know, having that awareness is very important, that there's more to it.
Yeah.
And I'm in my journey of learning, which is really exciting. So one of your webinars that is coming up next week on Wednesday is about trusting your intuitive abilities. So that is, you know, really important because many of us, like you said, we don't know what that voice is. We don't know what kind of messages we're getting, if we can trust them, if they're real. So tell me a little bit more about what you're going to be talking about.
Well, one of the things we're going to be talking about is, how do I know it's real? And that's a common question. Well, first of all, imagination is the doorway to intuition. And so even if you are imagining it at first, that's okay. So if you say, oh my gosh, this is all my imagination, that's fine. Just don't go moved across the country on that imagination, you know. So what we do is, first of all, we don't discount our imagination. We allow it to flow, and if it's wrong, we'll find out. Because one of the things we're going to be doing is working on how do we journal our hunches, or we're going to actually learn how to ask a question and journal it, and then wait and see if it comes true. Now, one of the sometimes freeing and sometimes disturbing things to people is that the average psychic, if they're 60 to 70% accurate, they're doing great. And so I would expect that you might be worse than flipping a coin at first, you know, while you're building, and trusting is what will increase that. The more we trust it, the more the universe seems to work with us, and the more we're accurate. And I think the reason we're more accurate the more we trust is because we don't throw away the stuff that seems silly or doesn't make any sense. And I'll give you an example. I was reading for a woman, and she asked me about, she didn't know which nursing home. There was 3 nursing homes. She didn't know which would be best for her mother. And I saw a church. And I thought, well, the conscious Cindy thought, what does a church have to do with a nursing home? Yeah. If I was not trusting it, I would have said, well, maybe go to your pastor or your priest or your rabbi or whatever, you know, for an answer. But I trusted it. I don't always trust it, though. You know, I can't say I do this 100% of the time, but I trusted it. And I said, I don't know, I see a church. She goes, oh, one of them looks like a church. I know exactly where she should go.
Oh my goodness.
So if I wasn't trusting it, I would have edited that and left it out. So when we journal, I suggest you write everything, even the stuff that seems really bizarre. right? Seems really bizarre. Another thing, though, is the quality of it, right? Your guidance will never be judgmental.
Oh.
So it will never tell you you're better or worse than someone else. Now, it may say that person's energy is not in alignment with yours, but it won't say that horrible, nasty person who's so negative that makes you crazy is a lower being and you should not be with that person. Right? You can tell the difference. One is a discernment. That energy is not in alignment with you. The other is a judgment. That energy is in alignment with you, thus they are bad. So the ego in the mind does like to pretend it's your intuition, you know, but if it's judgmental, and that's only one, I give about 5 or 6, maybe more of those, but that's one, you know. If it's judgmental, then it's your ego. If it's discerning, and it leaves you with a sense of, well, I don't care for that, but I feel at peace with it, then that's going to be your intuition.
And you talk a lot about asking the right questions and how important that is to get better messages.
So important. And I think this one we'll be talking a little bit about in the upcoming, but there's one I understand, the other is going to be in about 2 weeks after that.
Yeah.
They're going to talk about that a little bit more. But in questions, people come to me and they say, when will I be happy? And I say, don't hit me, but when you decide to be happy. Happiness is a choice.
Yeah.
No gift or person or situation is going to make you happy.
Right.
We've seen people that are they get a rose and they complain about the thorns, we've seen that. And even within ourselves, I'm sure you've seen when you thought something was going to make you happy and then there's that thorn there.
Yeah.
So I always dispel that one right away. But let's take a different question. Someone will say, is that the right job for me? Is this a good job for me? And so I have to dig a little deeper and I'll have to say, well, what's a good job look like to you? Because I might find that this job will 100% make you go home every day and feel fulfilled that you were of service, but your cupboards are empty and your gas tank's empty. So it may be a good job in the sense of fulfillment, but financial reward, not so much. Or you may say, oh my gosh, I am buying myself diamond rings every week, but you go to work and you're having to take advantage of people, right? So what does good look to you? Now, it's probably never going to be that extreme. That's just for example, but what does good look for you? So when people say, is that a good job or is that a good place to move? We may look at, I might look at it socially, emotionally, physically. Maybe you're moving where it's an allergy place, but you find the love of your life and you just live on Clarendon. So the question is so important.
Right.
And so one of the things we work on is how do we word the question in a way that is actually answerable?
Okay.
Yeah.
So if it's too broad, it could work in so many different ways.
A vague question gets a vague answer.
Yeah.
A specific question gets a specific answer.
Yes or no questions better? Or
well, yes or no questions I find extremely unsatisfying. So if you say, am I going to move to Nebraska? And I say no, and you go, thank God. No offense to Nebraska, right? But we live in Virginia Beach, it's a heaven here. And you're like, oh, thank goodness. Well, yeah, but am I gonna move to the Sahara? Am I gonna, so yes or no, I find may give you an immediate, oh, thank goodness, or oh, that's problematic, But I feel like it always requires a follow-up question.
Yeah, it needs to go further.
Yeah, and these are all things we're going to discuss.
Yeah.
Because whether you are just taking this because you're curious and you want to see about how your intuition and I want to trust it more, or you want to maybe go to a psychic and you want to make sure that you're asking good questions, or you are the psychic and you're like, I can't answer that. You know, these are all, it'll be helpful no matter from what perspective you are coming to see this webinar.
Absolutely. And I know you've been a spiritual teacher for a very long time. I mean, you've traveled around the world teaching. What are some of the favorite things that you teach? I mean, of course, like psychic development, intuition.
I think the spiritual development.
Yeah.
I feel that, like I've been working, oh my goodness, night and day for a while on a class I'm going to teach called the Initiations. Now it's more based on theosophy than the Cayce material, although you can see definitely lines going through. What one might call qualifications, the other might call ideals, you know. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of similarities, but it's about how to be a better person. Mm-hmm. And it's very in alignment with ideals, but I am enjoying just the research of it. Yeah. I can't wait to teach it. Those are one of the things I teach on my own. But I love the spiritual development. I love the ahas that people go through. One of the things in this Initiations, it says to have a conversation without interrupting. And for me, that's almost impossible. It's like, I have to sit on my hands, you know, because I talk with my hands, so it's helpful to sit on my hands. But after that, because I've taught the class before, people have just come and goes, oh my goodness, I didn't realize how difficult that was, but how rewarding. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, because you really get to listen and pay attention.
And I love the survey lectures here at A.R.E. I mean, we're not doing them right now, but once we resume, come at 3:30, we'll be here. I love teaching beginners. Yeah. And making difficult, or what may be perceived as difficult, concepts into something understandable. And one of the things I've been doing lately that is just fun, and there'll be some in this video, in this upcoming webinar, is I've started making videos, and they're childlike.
Yes,
they are
I've
definitely
seen
childlike. You've seen some of them, right? And I find that finding ways to make things fun and entertaining as well as informative are favorites. So making these videos now is
and they're very engaging.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and they're short.
They're short.
You get the little like a snippet of you know the.
So
the lesson.
I find that I'm really enjoying that lately.
Nice. So tell me, we have your webinar coming up. Is going to be a part 1, part 2. Part 1 is coming up next Wednesday, and then a couple weeks from there we're going to have part 2. And then I know in October you're doing a Soul Growth Saturday program about being an empath, or?
Well, it's multifaceted.
Okay.
Now this is the program, a mini version, right? Because if you're at a field conference, which we can't do right now, if you're at a field conference and this is a mini version of what you would see at a field conference. So if you've said, oh, I always want to go to one of those field conferences, this will give you a taste, right? Because it's only 3 hours, and we're going to be doing interviews, so there'll be opportunities for Q&A. So you can actually, because it's live, you'll be able to put your questions in, and Peter will be like you're doing now.
Oh, great, moderating.
But it's the first segment is teaching empath skills. Empath, remember, is picking up on everybody else's stuff, and it can be incredibly difficult, but it also can be incredibly empowering. Think about if you could go in and ask your boss for a raise, and you really know how they're receiving you at moment to moment, or you're having a conversation and you can sense when it's time to back off because you went that step too far, right? So so it's going to talk about empath skills. Then we are going to work on talking about the different clairaudience, voyance, and we're going to work on some exercises there. We're going to do something that comes from Henry Reed. Now Henry might be before your time.
I mean, I know who Henry is.
Right? Oh, everybody loves Henry Reed. So Henry Reed years ago wrote a book, and in this book was this exercise, psychic development exercise, on tapping into the memory to answer a person's question. It's fabulous. And everybody goes, oh, it's not going to work. Oh my gosh, it worked. Oh, I couldn't believe it. It's the response every time. So we're going to do that. And you don't have to worry that you don't have anyone to practice with, because first we're going to work on how to get a good question.
Oh, nice.
You're going to write down questions, and then you're not going to know which one you pick because you're going to have multiple, and you're going to answer your own question. So we're going to tap into our memory through the heart, connecting to the heart. And then we're in the third segment, we're going to develop our sacred garden. We're going to understand how we can diagnose our spiritual well-being through the garden. And then we're going to meet a spirit guide, and everyone can do it. You may not get the answer immediate, you may get it later, you may only feel or sense or feel like you're imagining. But everyone will experience something in that garden that will be meaningful.
It sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it.
Yes, and so
Sign
that's
me up.
October 3rd.
Great.
Yeah.
And I know we don't have it up on the website yet, but it's save the date, and we'll have information on that coming up soon. So we're getting ready to wrap up, and just as a last question, tell me, what is one tip for trusting your intuition a little bit more?
Well, I think validate, right? Whether you do it through a journal, whether you write things on your iPhone, on your memos or whatever, when you have a hunch, don't worry about acting on it. Why put that pressure on it? Just write it down and then validate. But also remember, 60 to 70, a professional psychic is probably 60 to 70, maybe 75% accurate. The reason they seem less or more accurate is because you either only remember what they told you that you wanted to happen, and so you either remember that did or didn't. So either that psychic's great because what you said happened, what I wanted to happen happened, or they're terrible because what I wanted to happen didn't happen. So you tend to only remember the things that are inherently strong within your desire. And so either the psychic got it or they didn't. But there's no reason why you should have that expectation that you should be more than 60 to 70% accurate. And especially when you're starting, you might want to do that and flip a coin, right? Because at first, your expectation should be that I'm probably not going to be accurate, but I need to know what that feels like.
Yeah.
And then I can know what it feels like when I am more accurate. So then your whole body gets involved with that. And we're going to also, in one of those segments, I'm not sure which one, we're going to learn how to use the body as a truth detector as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm excited about everything that's coming up and getting to know you a little bit more, so thank you.
Well, thank you so
wonderful.
much, and I look forward to reaching out to everyone in these 3 upcoming events.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you.